Paternity leave for gay men.
Mr. Pagan.
Many of you may have asked in recent days, why did Pete Buttigieg take 2 months off work after his twins were born? Shouldn't his wife have taken the time off in order to recover physically and to bond with the infants? You may not know this, but Pete Buttigieg does not have a wife. I know to Republicans that may seem scandalous, but Pete Buttigieg is something called a homosexual. Now, homosexuals don't actually give birth, they adopt. And you might think, well, that doesn't really make sense. A mom with 9 months carrying the child and then several hours of labor. Well, she needs some time off work, obviously. But a couple of dudes who adopted 2 infants, why do they need time off to work? It may not make sense to a deplorable Republican such as yourself. In fact, one of my followers on Twitter, Jabroni Killa, even tweeted, reminds me of my 65-year-old mother-in-law saying that she's an orphan because her parents are both dead. Ugh. You people. Allow me to explain. Homosexuals are not like you or me. When they have a child, they need to take 2 months off work to recover from the grueling adoption process. Also, it's important to Pete Buttigieg that he repair his vagina. And you've got to understand that breastfeeding is critical to newborns. And before you can say, but he's a man and that's not possible, how dare you? Maybe Pete Buttigieg identifies as a lactator. Did you ever think of that? How many times do we have to tell you, if you identify as something, it's true? I mean, Pete and his partner have been milking each other for years. A lot of you believe that it was irresponsible for Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, to take time off work at the very moment that our nation is dealing with a supply chain crisis. And yes, he's been placed in a high-powered position critical to the infrastructure of the country, but come on. We all know that he was put in that position because he agreed to drop out of the 2020 Democrat primary in order to make way for Joe Biden. Does anyone really think that he was ever actually qualified for that position? Hello? He's just required to be a gay checkmark on the Biden administration diversity hiring sheet, fiddle with his vagina, and collect a fat paycheck. You may also ask, why did Pete Buttigieg have to be the one taking time off work? Why couldn't his husband Chasten do it? Chasten is, after all, unemployed. Well, guys, that's actually a pretty good question. Doesn't seem to make sense, but I have a theory. I think Chasten is probably dealing with severe postpartum depression. And as I said, adoption is a very difficult process, and that Chasten, well, he is a gentle soul. He probably needs Pete there for emotional support all the time for 2 months. And also, he has to repair his vagina. But okay, the big question that everybody really wants an answer to. Why 2 months? 2 months seems rather excessive. You're probably thinking, my father didn't take a single day off work when I was born and I turned out okay. But you are a Republican, so obviously that's not true. But as I indicated before, it's not for the child, it's for the mother. Or in this case, the other father. Look, not all moms need a dad around, but mine did. And that didn't happen, okay? After I was born, my father had my mother up and cooking breakfast the very next morning. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I am still talking through it with my therapist. Okay, look, let's be real here. 1, Pete Buttigieg is not qualified to be transportation secretary. Fine. 2, he obviously doesn't need 2 months off for paternity leave, and this is clearly abusing the system. And 3, he's got to repair his vagina. But the truth is, and I think deep down we all know this is about equity. Everybody needs to be given the same amount of everything in the new socialist utopia that we are building back better. There needs to be just as many girls' sports teams as guys, and gay men need just as much paternity leave as mothers get maternity leave. And who knows, maybe one day we will make so much progress that the government will also provide men with tampons and adequate access to abortion clinics. Today's sponsor is, of course, Gillette, the official razor of Pete Buttigieg, that he uses to shave his vagina. And remember, it's not about being factually correct. It's about being, emotionally right? Something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Namaste, fam. He's just required to be a gay checkmark on the Biden administration diversity hiring sheet, fiddle with his vagina, and collect a fat paycheck. And you... Okay, hold it together. You may also ask, why did Pete... Pete and his partner have been milking each other for years. Woo! That is a bad joke. That is a bad joke. I debated whether or not I should include that, and That's actually not my joke. That's my buddy Kurt's joke. And we had a little bit of an argument about it, but I decided to leave it in. Bit of a risk, but don't be too offended. Don't be too offended. I apologize. It is disgusting. Namaste, fam. Okay, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Okay, done. We'll do the next one.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
We choose truth over facts.
A man I'm proud to call my friend, a man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
Joe Biden is not playing with a full deck. This is not somebody you could have as your president.